Been a while since we've done this blog. I think it was the first week of the season, but we are back.
Oh, we've done it since then.
Not really. It's been a busy couple of months. This is the KDLT Sports Extra Points video blog. He's Mark Ovenden, the sports director of KDLT, also the host of Calling All Sports. I'm Zach Borg, the weekend anchor here at KDLT. Either way, been a long time since we've done this blog. Lots happened. It's a big week. We're going to have a high school championship preview. If it's not up yet, it will be shortly, so look for that on our YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter pages. For now, though, we're going to start off with a big week for the colleges, and it's the biggest week in terms of rivalries for the colleges. It's State U week, fourth time in Division I era. Obviously, you've been here for 40 years, almost 40 years, so you know plenty. You've seen plenty of these games. Unique situation this year, though. I don't know if I've asked some people, and they don't remember a year where both teams went into it challenging for a playoff spot or with playoff implications. SDSU 7-2, USD 5-4, pretty much needing to win out at this point, but a lot on the line for both teams this time.
There is. You're playing more into that playoff thing than I am for USD because they got to beat South Dakota State and Illinois State. That's not to say they can't do that, but you still don't know for sure if a 7-4 record's even going to get you in. Now, if you've beaten
Illinois State, NDSU,
Illinois State, and South Dakota State,
they'll be in.
They would get it. But it's at this point, I think the team with the more on the line in terms of playoffs is South Dakota State, and that big win over Illinois State last weekend, I think, has a chance to propel them to get a home field advantage in the first round of the playoffs.
And a bye. Yeah, maybe even a bye, too.
So, and if that happens, they'll play at Howard Wood Field, which is, with Coughlin already starting to be disassembled, which is basically what they'll have to do to the stands on the west side, and they're going to tumble the press box down. That's I won't miss walking up there anymore. It's a tough enough walk, but when you're carrying heavy gear, Zach takes the little light one. I take the big heavy camera, and I've done that over the years, yes, close to 40 years. And you get to the top of that, and you're just like lightheaded. Yeah. So I will not miss that jaunt from the bottom of the steps to the top. However, it's probably been great for getting the players in condition, having them run up down the stairs because it's steep.
Well, I don't think the new ones will be as steep at the Dana Dykhouse Stadium, but I'm sure there might be an elevator for everybody, so I'm sure the press will probably...
So. And Dana's a good friend of mine, but it's going to take me a while before I can start calling it that. It's Coughlin alumni. It has been all this time, so it's habit. But the fact that it's in the same spot, I think is going to make it better for those of us traditionalists that don't like to see change. And it's going to be spectacular when it's all done, so...
Well, going back to the State U game this week, forget the playoffs. Both teams are in unique situations because USD, last 3 years they've gone into this, they've been tough sledding. They've been losing close games, haven't had a lot of momentum. Now, on the other hand, they've won, I think, 3 of their last 4. You've got State, who was always playing. They had to win out to get to the playoffs, and like you mentioned, now they're trying to improve their seed. They pretty much know they're already in. So
unless
kind of
they lose the last 2 games.
Yeah, but with the wins over Illinois State and Kansas, it would be hard to keep them out.
I agree.
So different situation too. I mean, on paper, this has to look like USD's best chance in the last 4 years.
Well,
to beat SDSU.
Well, of course it is, because they haven't been very good the last 3 years.
Now, the game 2 years ago in Vermillion was close.
But by the time they get to this last game of the season in particular, USD's been so decimated by injuries, they haven't had that much of a team left. So regardless of the records, it's been tough. This year, Trevor Bauma's gone, which is unfortunate,
right.
But they've managed to continue playing really well without him, and that's pretty impressive. So, yeah, it's clearly the best chance they've had since they've both been FCS teams for them to win. And it's also at home. But the Coyotes don't have the kind of home field advantage that the Jackrabbits do, even though they play in a dome.
Well, and the interesting thing, too, is you look at State this year, they've gotten off to slow starts at home in every home game. But on the road, they've come out gangbusters. They got up huge at Kansas, they kind of had to hold on. Got up huge at Youngstown, huge at Missouri State. It's almost like they're a better road team than they've been a home team, so maybe this plays into their hands a little bit.
I don't think so. I don't agree with it. I mean, it seems that way, but I don't think they're necessarily a better road team. I just think they had a couple of bad games at home. I don't think it has anything to do with home being a bad place for them to play.
No, I mean,
they'd rather be at home.
He's always talked about how they're a veteran team this season, and that's kind of shown. They don't go on the road. They don't get rattled. They seem to be they have that focus. Don't know who the quarterback's going to be yet for SDSU. Stig did not admit to either Lujan or Christian when we talked to him. We could see both. What kind of a game do you think this is going to be on Saturday?
I don't know. The Jackrabbits certainly moved the ball really well with Terran Christian last Saturday. He combined for 300 yards of offense and a couple of touchdowns in their win over Illinois State. That's who I'd rather see in there, but John Stigamar has said many times to me, even on Calling All Sports and to us, that Zach Lujan's his starting quarterback, and when he was hurt and came back, he was his starting quarterback, and they both bring something entirely different to the team. Lujan's more of a drop back,
traditional
pocket passer, and Christian, I think, loves to run out of there and make things happen. So they've got packages for both players. I think you'll see them both. I don't think you're going to see them pick one or the other.
Both defenses playing really well right now, too. I mean, USD's held some mobile quarterbacks in check. SDSU's defense, I mean, they've been great the last couple weeks. They held the leading rusher in the league to 60 yards, so it could be one of those maybe old school 17-14, 20-17 type games.
I think it'll be higher scoring than that.
Well, we will find out at 1 o'clock in the Dakota Dome. It's a big weekend in Vermillion. Like I said, we'll get to that in a minute. And as we transition to the rest of the college teams, this is the last week for the NSIC and the NAIA teams. Just kind of a quick moment to appreciate how good the football's been in our region this year. As we said, State and U have winning records. Augie and USF have 2 losses. Northern State, probably the best turnaround of anybody, starts 0-4. They're now 6-4. Can win their division.
Actually, they've clinched a tie.
Yeah, they've clinched at least the tie. They can win it outright. SMSU is 7-3. You look at the NAI, I know, granted, they're Minnesota. The NAI, Dakota Wesleyan, they will likely finish 9-2 and go to the playoffs. Yeah. Well, I said South Dakota, so I got to amend that. They're a coverage area.
The Mustangs are one of us.
Yeah, and they've had a heck of a year. Dakota Wesleyan 9-2. They're probably going to go to the playoffs. And even Dakota State, second straight winning year, they go 6-5. The talent in this area is pretty darn good when you see how good everybody is from top to bottom.
Yeah, a good story on Dylan Turner on Monday as our Athlete of the Week. He's made a big difference for Dakota Wesleyan and Ross Simple, not just by throwing for 2,000 yards and rushing, 23 touchdowns, but running the football. He's their leading rusher, so that's a little scary. You kind of hate to have your quarterback out there running that much, but Luke Papillion's been very successful.
And Taryn, too. He's been the leading rusher for State.
And Taryn has for State. So, yeah, it certainly can work on a college level. And Dakota Wesleyan at 9-2, I can't believe they won't make they'll beat Dort. They'll be in the playoffs. I can't believe they won't be. Shouldn't say that because of what happened.
You never know,
last year, but I just can't believe they wouldn't be in the playoffs. Augustana jumped up to 5th in the region rankings this week.
Miracle win at Winona.
They've got Concordia St. Paul. Yeah, that win at Winona on the last second play with no time on the clock. Just kind of a crazy pass from Trey Hyde to his high school buddy Charlie Hayes. You could tell there was definitely some instinctive connecting going on there because that was just a crazy play. And a huge play. That kept their playoff hopes alive.
They lose,
they're
alive,
but they got Concordia St. Paul to finish the season at home. They should win that. They'd finish at 9-2. USF has Upper Iowa. They need to get their act back together. 44-3 to Mankato. Of all the games all season long in high school and college, that was the most shocking to me that they lost by such a wide margin. And the score indicated how the game went. They were never in the game.
And Upper Iowa, that's a tough road trip to usually take. I know Upper Iowa's without their quarterback, but that's typically a very tough place to go. So that's by no means a gimme. And right now USF's sitting at 7. I think the belief is if they win, they have to win.
They need to win convincingly.
That's a good point. You need some style points right now with everybody else. It's funny because the last time we did this blog, the roles were reversed here because Augustana had just lost. It seems like the worms kind of turned for Augie. Now all of a sudden, between the USF game and the Winona game, they're finishing games or making that last second play, whereas the last couple of years, it seems like everything went against them. And USF was the dominant team at the start of the year. Now we don't really know where they're at.
No, they're playing really well. I like how Augustana is playing, and I think going into the playoffs, they're in a great spot because they go in with Trey kind of sets the tone for their team. They get a little bounce in their step right now, and even more of a bounce in their step after what happened at Winona.
And to conclude the college blog before we shift to our high school, shout out to the the college soccer teams in our region. Augustana, their first ever NSIC tournament title, had never won a match in the tournament before. They win 3 over the weekend. They're heading the NCAA tournament against Harding. South Dakota State going back to the College Cup for the second straight year. They win the Summit tournament, which was in Brookings, beat NDSU, and they get Minnesota, which was actually a pretty good sign of respect because they didn't get a seeded team.
Right.
So
they didn't have to go to North Carolina this year.
But that I gotta think that's gonna help them because they got everybody back from the team. They've been to North Carolina, so you know the moment isn't gonna be too big for them.
It was last year for about a half, and then they played well after that. So yeah, I agree. I think they're tournament tested, and they shouldn't be rattled by the moment. In fact, I think they're looking forward to it.